Today's daily recap for BTG Beyond the Gates is for Tuesday, September the 9th, 2025. Well, Chelsea is clearly struggling. She's going through PTSD. And, Kat told her, look, just a small little, group of us in the family. Come on over, have some breakfast with us. We want to make sure you're okay. So she agreed to come. Madison came with her. And they had champagne and, wanting to toast her that she's back. And he said, the whole family's going to be coming over. And that froze her in her tracks. She got a little shaky and nervous and the whole thing. And they're like, Chelsea, is everything okay? What's going on? She goes, you said it was just going to be a small intimate. And she goes, no, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't do this. So she runs out, right? Madison goes behind her. And then Kat says, she said this morning that she wanted to move on and she was okay with the small group. And Vernon says, and I had to go and say the whole family was coming. Oh, so whatever. Kat goes, I'm gonna go after her. So Danny and Bill are at the house. Bill is there too. Bill's a fixture there now. So he and Danny were talking about, because by the time they got there, Chelsea had already left, right? And they're like, but didn't she know we were? She goes, no, she kind of freaked out. And Vernon says, it's my fault. This was too much too soon. And so they were sitting on the stairs talking to each other, right? And then Danny was saying, that woman, that psychopath has traumatized our daughter. Boy, if I run across her, what I'm gonna do to her, I'm gonna go DEF CON 1. And he goes, okay, Danny. He goes, just calm down. She's in custody, And she goes, yeah, I know. But she needs to be in custody for her own protection. So now she turns her way around on the stairs and she's leaning against Bill. Really rather comfy. And I thought, uh-oh, no. Right? So Naomi comes out the living room and she looks and she sees them like that. And Danny looks at Naomi and Bill looks at Naomi and Danny says, well, I better go on and check on whatever. And Bill starts to stand up too. His phone starts to ring. And Naomi says, whoever's calling you, that could wait. I want to know what's going on between you and my mother. And Bill says, Naomi, honey, that's called family, being there for family in the time of need. She says, no. She says, I was watching you. Even the whole time Chelsea was gone. I understand comforting and being there. She said, but mom was leaning on you a little too much. And you were letting her. As a matter of fact, you were encouraging it. And he goes, do I need to remind you I am married and I'm happily married? I'm surprised she didn't say, oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. You were supposedly happily married to mommy when you took up with Haley. So, yeah, you do need to remind me. Should have said that. And he says, no, we are two parents here for each other. She says, you know what? That may be how you feel, but you know that mom's feelings for you are deeper. You know this. So I'm telling you right now, stop leading her on. Stop making it so comfortable for her to get wrapped right back up into you, only for it to be snatched away from her again because you're married, right? And he just looks at her. And Naomi's like, I mean it. So, yeah, and she's right. So then they show Chelsea at home. Madison's trying to tell her, calm down. You need to calm down. She goes, what she did to me. She goes, that's all I could think about. And she was looking at her social media. She's got a bunch of people rallying for her. But then there's this whole group of folks, as there usually is, who's saying, free Allison, let love prevail. And I'm thinking, well, for one thing, Chelsea, you didn't get out there and let them know, oh, no, this was not love. I was abducted. Do it the way you looking now. Bruised forehead, no make. I was abducted. I was traumatized. I still am and don't know when I'm going to get over this. And then she tried to kill me by trying to stab me with a knife. So no, there is no let love prevail. This was not love in the least. And then she needs to tell her fans, this woman says, I'm her wife. She performed this wedding herself, which you can't do legally, at knife point for me. So no, I'm not her wife, right? And as they're doing the mug pictures, shows how completely delusional she is. She's just spouting social media posts and what Chelsea was wearing. June 2nd, blah, blah, blah. She was wearing a cream jacket. She was here. I mean, Jacob is like, she's been doing this all morning, just reciting Chelsea's social media posts. And what he goes, she's really delusional. He was talking to the other officer that was taking pictures. And he goes, come on, let's go. And he sits her down by his desk and he chains her to it. And she goes, I want to see my wife. You can't keep us apart. It's true love. And he goes, no, that's not love at all. And no, you won't be seeing her because it took me hours to get you released here so that you could be prosecuted here where the abduction took place. And then who comes charging in but Chelsea? And he goes, Chelsea, it's not. She goes, no, I have to tell her this. And she goes, you did not win. But what you have done, you've done this to me. You have made me angry and bitter, and you have changed me. She goes, every waking moment, you are in my head. And I'm thinking, you wouldn't tell her that. Why would you tell her that? But she said, with the horrible psychotic things you did to me. There was nothing horrible and psychotic. My love, I love you. You're my wife. I would never hurt my wife. You know, and Chelsea says, I am not your wife. I am nothing to you. And you are going to jail for this for a long time. No, they can't keep us apart. I know you've been looking at your social media. You're trending. You have millions of people. Because of me, I gave you the exposure that you crave. This was a good thing because of me. And she is just looking at her, and Allison's like, Chelsea, no, you don't even need to listen to her. You don't, let's go. And Chelsea is just looking at her. And I thought, yeah, see, somebody's going to be backing up a bit from social media, telling people everywhere you go, where you at right now. Yeah, because of folks like that one there, right? So anyway, Chelsea is going to go through a lot. Now, Nicole, she was at home. Ted, comes into the house, brings her flowers, sprays her Febreze. I hadn't seen that Febreze in a minute. Product placement, throughout the house, throughout the little area there. And he smells it like, okay. I'm thinking, oh, come on now. And he was going to put the flowers in a vase, and Nicole walks around from out the hallway, and she goes, oh, she named the kind of flowers they were. And she goes, oh, they're beautiful. Well, what are you doing here? Oh, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. And I wanted to also know, now that your parents have the new, Chelsea's home safe, which I'm very happy to hear. Uh, how did your parents take the news that I took care of the Leslie situation? And she goes, I haven't told them, Ted. And he goes, why not? She said, you were at the hospital last night with all of us. We were all worried about Chelsea. That's where all our thoughts were. That was not the time to tell them anything like that. And he goes, yeah, but Leslie had been a worry, and I took that worry off their plate. And so Nicole looked at him and said, but that worry with Leslie does not compare to what the crisis the family was going through with Chelsea, Ted. Right now, I'm late. I've got to go. She goes, and you know what? Thank you for the roses, but I mean, whatever the flowers were. But you know what? You don't need to do this again, okay? Because things haven't changed. So Nicole arrives, and of course, Chelsea had gone, but Danny and Bill were there. And Nicole was given the family, and actually, she was given the family some counsel on how to handle PTSD folks. And, Chelsea's going to need some space. She's going to come to them when she's ready for that kind of comfort and all of this, right? So that's when Danny left the room, and then Bill left too, because like, you know what, I can't hear Nicole analyze the situation anymore. And Bill said, yeah, I hear you, but she's right. But yeah, they just didn't want to hear it, how Nicole was just talking more clinical to them. And I was thinking, you're Chelsea's aunt. You would think you would be talking to Chelsea just a little bit, just to open the door, because she needs some psychological help. But let's see how long Nicole takes to do that, because she sure was giving the family some counsel, right? So now we have, so they're standing there. Nicole, Danny is in the living room, because remember when Naomi came out, Danny went back into the living room. Anita and Ted comes through the door. And Ted walks on over into the living room. And I said, see them Duprees, that could have been Leslie. They don't lock the door. Lock the doggone door, people. So Nicole looks up and she goes, Ted, what are you doing here? And he goes, oh, I saw all the cars in the driveway, and I just wanted to come in to express how happy I am that, again, that Chelsea is home. And I was, hoping that she would be here so I could tell her myself. And Nicole said, well, Chelsea's not here. She left, a while ago. So thank you for coming, Ted, but you can leave. And then Ted looks at Anita. He goes, oh, you probably don't know this, but I took care of your Leslie situation. I had her back out, of the deal to buy the house across the street from you, just to take that worry off of you and Vernon's plate. Nicole looked at him, and I thought, Ted, you thought that was see, he did a Haley. He took the crisis and then he turned it all about him. And Anita said, thank you, Ted. Right? And Nicole says, you know what, Ted, I told you that wasn't the time. Now's not the time to talk about Leslie, right? It's not the time. Now, you've said what you wanted to say. You need to leave, Ted. So Nicole, he's to kind of walk into the door, but he turned around. Nicole, I've been a member of this family for decades. And, Chelsea I mean, yeah, Chelsea, I've known her since she was born. So I'm the concern I have for her doesn't just go away. And so Nicole told her, she told him, but you know what, Ted? But you're not a member of the family anymore. Now you were at the hospital showing your concern. That was enough. That's enough, right? And I think he says something else, and Vernon comes out, Ted, what brings you by? And Nicole's like, oh, he's just leaving, you know. So anyway, and I said, you know what, Ted, you couldn't read the room. Can't read the room. And here we have Leslie berating Vanessa, pretty much telling her she's gonna report her to the realty board, for her trying to filibuster, blockbuster to keep black people out of Fairmont Crest. And Vanessa, keep her out of Fairmont Crest because she's black. And Vanessa looked at her. She said, do you understand what you sound like? She goes, for one thing, that wouldn't fly. She says, and for two, this is a predominantly black town. Even all the listings I have in even exclusive neighborhoods. So no, that charge of yours would absolutely not work for me because I represent my black clients as well as any other nationality. She goes, let's call the truth the truth. We talking 100 because she goes, I'm tell you 100, Barbie. And my whole thing would be, you know what, you're gonna stop with the Barbie crap and you're gonna call me Mrs. McBride from now on. Okay? Because I'm a professional, unlike you. She says, I followed your wishes to the letter. I made the offer, got the offer accepted, went over. See, you used me like some kind of little weapon. You had me tell the Duprees the news that you were moving across the street. She goes, and let's be real. You only chose me as your realtor because Nicole is my best friend. And you wanted to weaponize me. And so she goes, yeah, keep your friends closer. And Vanessa looked at her, and Leslie says, and I see you haven't quit. She goes, because you keep your enemies closer. That's what Vanessa told her, right? So she looked at Vanessa and she says, now, you are the one who ruined the deal. You did by calling it off. Now they're upset and don't want to do business with you. I only did that because of what Ted Richardson did. He tricked me. And she goes, nonetheless, you did it. And I called them like you wanted today, and they said, absolutely not. They will never get into a contract with you again. And she says, never doesn't mean never. She says, you call them back and you tell them that I am doubling my offer. And Vanessa looked at her. She says, wait, you're gonna what? She goes, that's right, you heard me. I'm gonna double my offer. And I know Vanessa, in her mind, she's thinking, the commission I'm gonna make off of that? What? She goes, so that kind of money, it'll talk. So you need to get to doing your job, Barbie, and get it done. Because I want to be able to walk out my front door and wave to my neighbors, hey, Duprees, I'm here. And I ain't going nowhere. And Vanessa just looked at her. She goes, I'll make the call. I'm thinking, of course you are. You know how much money you gonna make? And in my mind, I'm thinking, Leslie, the check was only 1.5 million. You're blowing it. Like you're gonna whatever. See, she don't know how to manage her money. She's gonna go broke before the next settlement. She's gonna go to Anita. You do whatever you got to do to get it released early, and Anita's gonna be like, "Oh no, that ain't happening at all," because I don't control the trust like that. And then she's gonna go to Ted and say, "You're gonna pay my bills until my next index." See, it's gonna be a nightmare with her, but let her. And then just when I felt I liked Eva, I don't like her at all anymore. She had the nerve to tell Tomas she wants him to represent her mother because her mother has a right to live wherever she wants to live, and the Duprees are trying to block her. For one thing, everybody, that's not a lawsuit because Leslie called off the real estate deal. When she was buying the house across the street, the Duprees had nothing to do with it. They couldn't stop it. Vernon could have took out his checkbook and outbid her, but they said then it'll be just the next house. And then no, we're not buying the whole neighborhood to keep her out. But I tell you what, y'all, I'd have kept her from living across the street from me. That's for sure. But here's the deal: could care less where she lived. Get a restraining order so she can't set foot on your property. Period. Because she comes in and she threatens and she's hostile. So no, I take care of her legally so she can't come to my house. Right? But anyway, she says, I want you to represent my mama because because Bill threatened her that he's going to keep her out from behind the gates. And I know you are just as good, if not better, because you're younger than Bill. He's old school lawyer, and you're new school. And she's trying to flirt with him. He goes, so in other words, you want me to come up against the man that signs my paychecks. Do I have this right? She goes, yeah, because he goes, you deserve to be partner. And he goes, a path that I'm already on? She goes, yeah, but it's a slower path. And if you do this, it would be much faster. People would realize you got a name because you're going to. And he's just looking at her. And I thought, Tomas, if you do this, you're stupider than I thought. For one thing, you're stupider than Eva because this girl don't know and don't care about you can't go up, take a case against your senior partner. You can't and expect to still work there. He could take that case, but Bill's going to fire him. Rightfully so. You work for me. That's a conflict of interest. You're now going to file suit against me? Oh, heck no. Heck no. And I thought, see, no. Eva had told her mother, no. I told you I got your back. And I'm gonna prove it because those Duprees, they are not gonna this, that, and the other. And I said, you're gonna get what you deserve. Ted's gonna tell you, you need to go look. You sold with your mama, you need to go on and live back with your mama, honey, into her apartment because I'm not gonna have my child talking about me, but still living on my dime. And since your mama has so much money, it's obvious what you don't need your job with me, right? Because I can't now second guess. Are you going to try to sabotage my company, Eva? See, before that was no question. But now I don't know, girl. I don't know. So anyway, I'm just like, no, I'm not liking the direction Eva's in, and how stupid Tomas was. Entertaining the idea. You could do this. No, give her a referral. Because he goes, I'll give you a referral. I don't want a referral. I want you. No, it'd be, let me tell you something. I have to give you a referral because Bill's my boss. And if I do this, any other law firm in the state, none of them will touch me. So no, Eva, I can understand. Because he told her, he goes, you were the main one who didn't want your mother buying that house or living behind those gates. What changed? What changed is the tactics they're using. My mother has a right to live wherever she wants to live, and she went blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, there we go. You thinking what you want to think. So Kat walks in and she walks over to the table with the two of them and she puts her purse down. And Tomas looks up at her. Okay. And she goes, what's going on here? And Eva says, we're just talking about books. And Kat says, oh, really? What books? And then he's like, well, really, it's about investing. You know, she gave some lame thing. And so she goes, really? And so Eva stands up. She goes, well, I'm going to go. She goes, I'm happy that Chelsea was found safe. And so Kat looks at her and says, yeah, but I bet you wished it was me that had been abducted. And Eva looks at her and smiled. Well, since you brought it up. And Kat's just looking at her. And Eva looks at Tomas, says, bye, Tomas. You could tell her what we were talking about or not. And she walks out. So Kat sits down and she looks at him, right? How's Chelsea? Oh, he gets her to talking about what happened. And of course, that diverted her attention because she wanted to talk about that. So she didn't even really rake him over the coals about Eva because she wanted to vent to him about Chelsea. But anyway, everybody, that was it. That's all that happened today. I will be back tomorrow with another daily recap of BTG Beyond the Gates. And tomorrow I should get back to Comment Corner on BTG.